wind tunnels that they've decided to erect in Belfast.
Oh. No, he's watching Brazil versus Serbia.
I think he's joking.
Oh, hey, hang on a minute. Hang on. What's the odds? Because Germany beaten 2-1, right? By Japan. Argentina, what was that? 1-0, right? So what's the chances of Serbia beating Spain?
They're not playing Spain.
Brazil.
Oh, it's the same difference, isn't it?
No.
They speak Portuguese.
Yeah, but it's next door to Spain, so it's all right. So what's the latest on the score then?
0-0.
Oh, Henry is there.
Oh, well done.
Come on, crack on with it.
Well, anyway, near Tara, Dr. Sean O'Riordan of Trinity College, carbon dating showed that the remains of the, oh God, that was a 15-year-old boy. No, but they did find this this Barbary ape, and it was roughly 2,500 years old. Well, that's nothing really, because you know, what they're trying to say is there were people who went to Ireland a lot longer ago.
What date have we got?
And they think they were from Egypt. And this
hang on, just stop a minute. So basically the population of Ireland's from Egypt.
No, they're saying that, look, they found this skull of a primate. Think about it. A monkey in Ireland. You know, I mean,
yeah,
isn't that amazing?
It is amazing, but the question is, what's his name?
So it was some sort of ceremony, you know, then, and that there is sort of proof. It's not proof, but it's made them go into a lot of scientific research about, you know, about the mythology of Egypt and Ireland are kind of interconnected. That is,
and can I just ask one
before the Celts?
Yeah, Anne, I want to get a word in edgeways a minute, right? Where did you say you're getting this information from?
You know,
There's a booklet or leaflet called Irish Archaeology, and it has got a Barbary ape skull from Navan Fort, County Armagh.
That's right.
Dated back to 300 BC.
Yes. But I did actually read a lot more of it today.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Stop a minute. 300 years BC?
Yeah, 390 to 320 BC.
Yeah.
Barbary apes on Ireland?
In Ireland.
In Ireland, because it was, you know, it was a ritual sort of. They probably grew, you know, they probably raised them, you know.
Probably brought over on a ship.
That's the piece, and I put it on archaeology.
The page.
It's Thoth Storm, new evidence for ancient Egyptians in Ireland, and oh God, what is it though? What page is it?
And look, the best thing to do, right, because we're doing news now, is try and find it out in the
news.
break. I know it's news.
All right then.
Yeah, but tell you what, find out more about it in the break, because Goff has just sent me a message saying that he's lost the will to live.
I thought I'd lost the will to live myself, but this has brought me back to life.
What, the Barbary ape?
Well, the fact that, you know, it's just I was trying to remember it, you know. I wrote notes down, and
good. Right, Anne, right, say, because we haven't got all week, right, and the grass is actually grown underneath my feet since I've been listening to you, right? Find out more
It's
in
on
the break, okay?
Facebook. It's on
What?
Facebook.
Yeah,
And
but
I
just because
probably
it's on,
sent it to you.
yeah, I know you sent. Look, I know you sent it to me. I don't want to take your glory away from you, Anne. Right. Okay. I've got two articles of the week which I want to do. One is absolutely unbelievable. One is quite boring and it's been sent to me by Henry. But other than that, is there any other news from Richard? Come on, Richard, tell us something really spectacular.
No, nothing's happened.
Right. Okay then, go. Any news from you this week?
Only what's been on the telly about the coin that's been rediscovered in the Scottish Museum.
From Dacia, is that the one that they thought was a fake?
Yes, that's Transylvanian Roman governor that was on the face of the coin that they thought.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all I got. That was very interesting, actually. I thought
Yeah, I thought it was as well.
because they all poo-pooed it and said, "Oh no, a load of crap." And of course, it wasn't, was it?
No, it wasn't. It turned out it was a gold coin as well, which would be obviously you're reliant upon Dacian gold, but yeah, very interesting find. I was listening to that on the radio myself. Yes. Right. So Henry, other than the piece that you actually sent me to actually look at today, is there anything you want to share with us, Henry?
Just this Barbary ape that they've got in Ireland.
It's what?
Well, tell us. Oh, you tell us about the Barbary ape then, because you're from France.
It seems to be a skull found in the Navan Fort, dating 2,300 years. And they don't know how he got there without a passport.
So he's an illegal immigrant then?
Absolutely.
But the thing is, right?
I can't find the Egyptian link at all. So
Well, that's because it was in it was ancient origins. Ancient oranges. Ancient origins.
Oranges?
Ancient origins.
Oranges. Oranges.
Oranges.
Right. Now, I'm going to read out this article of the week that Henry sent me, right? As usual, it's fascinating. And I actually used this on Tuesday. Thank you very much, Henry. But there's another piece that I've got to say, Henry, you will admit that the other piece that I'm going to share with you is massive, right? But nobody guessed what that's about because it's only just been placed on the news. But this one is really interesting. Ongoing excavations. Is it Kyde Fields in County Mayo provide a fascinating glimpse into farming and food production some 5,000 years ago. Now, I read this and I thought, very interesting. How long ago is 5,000 years ago? Well, that's the Neolithic period. That's the end of the Neolithic period that we're doing now. So, nice one. It was quite sophisticated, this site, with farmers growing crops of oats and barley, ploughing fields using ox-drawn ploughs. Your mind starts to go at this moment, and building enclosures to keep livestock. So you're thinking about ploughing fields using ox-drawn ploughs, medieval, but this is 5,000 years ago. And you're thinking, well, if the people in Ireland were that advanced to have that technology, right, then it obviously tells us that, as we've been discussing, that the people in Ireland must have been there a lot longer than we ever thought. And this Barbary ape thing that you've mentioned, I know I've just sort of spoiled that little thing, but it would be good to know if Anne can dig up a little bit more about it. And that's Ireland as well. The methods of farming used at Kyde Fields, and I'm probably the pronunciation's wrong, Ceide, if I could have some help there, Henry. The food production and the way they were cooked were remarkably similar to those which prevailed in Ireland for thousands of years afterwards. So that's a really nice one. So I like that we've got topical things and relevant things. And Barbary Apin Island from 2,300 years ago, that intrigues me. So I want to know more, Anne. But this
No.
next piece is big, right? And the reason why it's big, it challenges everything. And thanks for that coin mention as well. And actually, what I should do to put a bit of meat on the bones for what I know what this piece is about. Coin. What can I put in? Put coin. Romania. I should be able to find this quite easy. Romania. Emperor. I think that'll be enough. Right, here we go. Yeah. Right. This is it. Got it. Yes, is it. Got it. Got it straight away. Coin study reveals Roman emperor long thought to be fake was most likely real. A Roman emperor long thought to have been invented by forgers was found by a coin study to have likely been real. Coins depicting a Roman emperor called Sponsian were first discovered in Transylvania in 1713. Historians in the 1800s dismissed the coins as a poor forgery due to the lack of Sponsian in the historical record and the unusual design of the coins, which differ from other contemporary designs. Well, it would differ because he's somebody trying to show a sense of identity, right? It goes on to say that this coin was produced in the chaotic crisis towards the end of the 200s. And it says, what we have found is an emperor. He was a figure thought to have been fake and written off, but we think he had a real role in history. Examining the coins under an advanced microscope, the researchers found scratches consistent with past usage, as one would expect for coins jangling around in a coin purse. Chemical experiments found that the coins were likely buried for hundreds of years, further suggesting their authenticity. The sole task left for researchers was figuring out why the coins differ so much from contemporaries from other areas. So, Dacian Roman Emperor, it was the Dacian province broke away for a little time in the 260s. The period saw the mighty Roman Empire reach the precipice of collapse due to constant civil wars, barbarian invasions, economic depression, plague, Winston Churchill, and ineffectual leadership. The province of Dacia, jutting out beyond the Danube River, was hit especially hard. And Sponsian seems to be some kind of Roman emperor in his own right. So watch this space, because there's surely more about Sponsian out there. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you that other article, the one that has really fascinated me. So if we sort of share on here, and there we go. Oh, the bloody Scotsman, go away. Right, here we go. Oh, go away. I don't want to subscribe to the Scotsman. Right. Were Neanderthals the first hipsters? Now, this is, I got adverts now. Right. 70,000-year-old wild pistachio flatbread discovered in Iraq. Somewhere lost in the midst of the 1990s, there emerged into the world a new lifestyle phenomenon with the advent of the first hipster, or so we thought. He looks a bit like Richard. However, after journeying to a remote cave some 500 miles north of Baghdad, basically Shenandoah Cave again, scientists have discovered evidence that suggests, at least in culinary terms, that the movement may be much, much older, i.e., these flatbeds. Analysis of the charred remains of food cooked about 70,000 years ago at the location of the Shannon cave site has revealed the world's oldest known flatbread were baked there on hot stones and not by Homo sapiens, but rather our Neanderthal cousins. Well, just a few things there. We're sort of accepting that Neanderthals sort of bred into the Homo sapien line and so on. We know all that. But however, this is a big first. 70,000 years ago, that a form of bread is being invented by Neanderthals. Now, when we actually looked at this, when we actually looked at the first signs of bread in history, we started thinking, oh, about 10,000 years ago, right? 15,000 years ago, maybe 20,000 years ago, not 70,000 years ago. So a form of bread is being used and eaten 70,000 years ago. Admittedly, flatbread, any self-respecting hipster preferred term for what others might call pizza, has been widely cooked all over the world and not just by hipsters. We'll get rid of the hipster thing because it's doing my head in. However, this was not just ordinary fare, with the scientist explaining that it was flavored with wild pistachios, wild lentils, and grass seeds. We feel sure that these were locally sourced ingredients, and the resulting flatbreads were most definitely small batch. So in other words, if we look at this whole thing, right, they're inventing a type of bread that they're mixing in a load of different ingredients, and this is 70,000 years ago, and this is massive. And the other thing as well is the Shannon cave site was first discovered in about 1956. We got Shannon 1, the disabled individual that lived to about 50, being looked after by the Neanderthals. We've done all that. But however, Shannon cave, even, it's 60 years old that the site's been excavated and so on, and still they're finding more stuff out about it, which is absolutely fascinating. Here we go. One researcher, a professor from Liverpool, John Moores University. The old stereotype is that Neanderthals were less intelligent than modern humans and that they had a largely meat-based diet. Our findings are the first real indication of complex cooking and thus of food culture among Neanderthals, which is absolutely unbelievable. So what we do have, hang on a minute, there is actually another piece that we've got with some images. I'm going to see if I can track that down a minute. Judging by racial reconstructions, male Neanderthals also appear to have been quite fond of facial hair. Who knows? With their genes said to live on in modern humans, perhaps modern day hipsters were actually reconnected with something deep within their inner being, an ancient taste rediscovered and refreshed. So you've got these flatbreads made with pistachio nuts and all the rest of it. And I think this is amazing. I think this is we won't read through this article. We'll just show you some images from it. That's the Shannon cave. Oh no, go away. Why have we got these ads up? Oh, hang on. No, I don't want that. Oh God. Oh God, I've now subscribed to British Gas. Right, okay. Okay, let's just find another one. I wanted to see if I can find those images. Hang on a minute, just see if we can go up here. Hang on. Pistachio, nope. Oh my dearie me. Right, Shenandoah Cave. Anyway, they what they had, I can't find it unless I subscribe to the Times newspaper at this minute. But the one thing is that this is major news. Wild pulses, a pinch of mustard seeds, and a few crushed pistachio. Neanderthal cooks made world's oldest flatbread. I think it's great. So if you can actually look on the internet, you might be able to find out more about that. So Right. So what I'd like to do now, I'd like to go on to looking at Silbury Hill, which we started looking at last week. But I want us to go into a little bit more detail. Now, that there is the 1968 tunnel that was photographed in the 2000s. The basic weight of the mound itself has distorted the iron, and it's basically led this to slowly start to collapse. So that's where we're going to go now, and I just want us to remind us about what Silbury Hill actually looks like. And there is our Silbury Hill. And we went through lots of these images last week. And there's Silbury Hill surrounded in water. Now, I wanted to look at some of this, and we'll sort of do about 10 minutes, and then we'll take a little bit of a break, if that's okay. And also I've got to get something a minute. So right. Yes, it's rather cold here because I've just lost my gas supply. Right. So I'm gonna have to run across the field in the break and get another gas bottle. Right. So here we go, and we're gonna go to the way I sort of did this on Tuesday. I went between two sets of information, and it sort of it was quite good anyway. So what we remember about this mound from last week is that Silbury Hill itself is a major Neolithic monument, 40 meters in height, probably. It had a domed, that looks fairly domed today, but it's actually fairly flat. But in about 1700s, it actually had a domed roof, except it was flattened for whatever reason. It's part of a complex Neolithic landscape. It's an intriguing Neolithic landscape. It's part of the UNESCO World Heritage landscape, and the mound itself is composed mainly of chalk and clay, excavated from the surrounding area. And it, as we mentioned last week, it sort of covers an area of about 2 hectares, which is the equivalent of 2 Millennium Stadiums. Now, the biggest problem is that, without repeating myself too much, because I want to get to the nitty gritty that we didn't do last week, you know, the dating for this mound is very, very difficult, because some believe that the mound itself is actually 4,500 years ago, which is at the end of the Neolithic period. Others believe it's a lot older. And one of the things that I sort of expressed, and I thought on Tuesday, and I expressed the following: when we talk about this mound itself, as it stands today, being in volume a whopping 248,000 cubic meters of earth and fill, and we think the estimates for building this are 15 years, right? And 500 individuals built this hill over 15 years. However, we know that the hill was actually constructed over between 100 and 200 years, right? And I'm going to make a statement now, which you could say absolute nonsense. He's finally lost the plot. I believe that over a long period of time, a small group of people, not 500 group, it's saying that 500 people would have been needed to have built this mound over 15 years, right? This is doable, right? Over a longer length of time using a small number of people. And we're talking about dozens, right? And you're thinking, that is absolutely insane, as Karl finally lost the plot. And the reason why I'm saying that is that when I was married, and the year was 2006, we bought a barn in Llanos Wells, and that's my wife and me, and we had our 3 children there then, and we needed to build a driveway, right? And the driveway was basically mud, clay, and it was quite crappy, right? So we moved in front of the house in 1 week, 100 tons of soil. Now, we had 3 children to look after, with feed and all the rest of it. And we still moved in 1 single week 100 tons of soil. Now, how do I know it was 100 tons of soil? Because 100 tons of soil is the equivalent of 1,000 wheelbarrow loads of soil. And guess how many wheelbarrow loads of soil we moved? 1,000 wheelbarrow loads of soil. I'm trying to make a point here. The point is if you can, if 2 adults having to do everything else and feed themselves, and we've got children, all the rest of it, are able to move that amount of soil, I believe that this could be constructed using a small number of people, right? Therefore, you don't need to feed them, because what I'm saying, you don't need to feeding 500 people over a period of 15 years is a lot of resources. And the other thing as well is, undoubtedly, whatever you want to believe, any group of people setting out to build something like Silbury Hill, you know, it's something that they wanted to do. And whatever we say about Silbury Hill, it's one of those things that when you start out building something like this, after 100 years goes by, after 200 years goes by, you've no idea why you started building it, right? So the conclusion that we got to last Tuesday, and I'm going to say the conclusion that we got to on Tuesday, not last Tuesday, this Tuesday, was that some say it may have been to emulate hills within the near landscape, because there's not many hills within this immediate Wiltshire plain landscape. But the point I want to make is that when you think about in the Neolithic period, you think about what's called burial chambers. Well, we now believe that they were used for something else before they became burial chambers. You can have churches these days that started out as churches in the 1860s, then turned into a corner shop, turned into a little garage, and then turned into an Islamic mosque, right? And that's only like over 150 years, right? So, you know, and that's in written living memory and so on. So when you think about it, you think, well, there might be lots of different reasons why this is built, and the meaning has actually changed over a long period of time. So the diameter itself, 167 meters, and the summit 30 meters in diameter. Now, what I want to do is I want us to move directly into what we did on Tuesday. And I'd like to sort of chuck in another image, right? And the other image needs to be this. And when you look at something like this, you think, right, how do they know that this was constructed? Well, that will be explained in a few moments' time, under the title of investigations. So that's what we're going to do. So the mound is actually constructed using earth, which is composed of clay, and there's some flint nodules in it. Turfs, there you go. We also know that some little sarsen stones were used. They're sort of from Marlborough Downs, some are glacial, and they're brought to the site. Timber's used, and basically it's basically an arrangement of mounds that seem to get bigger and bigger, as we sort of discussed last week. So what I'd like to do is sort of think about the investigations at the mound, right? And and how this stems out over time. So let's try and change that image again. And there's, again, I remember saying this, when you look at something like this, you sort of see how enigmatic this mound is. And you could sort of get an idea that it may have been built in a step formation, but let's just not do, let's just try and sort of be a little bit more open. So the site was first illustrated in the late 1600s by a chap by the name of John Aubrey, in a publication that he was responsible for contributing in called the Monumenta Britannica, Britain's Monuments. And he published in that between 1680 and 1682. So this was mentioned, this existed, this has got a moment in history. We know about it. Now, what else we need to say about this is that, again, it's there's no sign that I can understand that John Aubrey was excavating into the mound in the late 1600s. Also, the same point is there's another famous historian at the stage called William Stukeley, who was there in 1723. Now, he mentioned something very, very interesting and very, very odd. He mentioned that when they were planting trees on the top of this mound, hang on a minute, there ain't any now. This is one question that I've been wondering. When they started planting trees in 1723, William Stukeley was up there, and it was reported to him that a skeleton with a bridle was actually found, right, directly on top of the mound. Interesting. Now, what we then find is that the history of excavation with the mound begins. Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to do this. And we're going to do this. We're going to go back. And the period of excavation, again, I think the one that I did actually use, we looked at this first, right? And this leads us on to the other bit of the talk today. That is itself is a tunnel, a vertical tunnel dug into the mound, and that was dug into the mound in 1776 under the auspices of the Duke of Northumberland, with a certain Colonel Edward Drax. Now, that itself is a 40-meter deep shaft that goes to basically the ground zero, the ground level underneath the mound. And when we actually sort of go back again, and we sort of go up and we go with this, you can see the shaft there. So the shaft was actually excavated, and it was dug by Cornish miners in October 1776. Now, this is really sort of key to everything, because this is where this whole thing starts to come into history, and why people are actually researching there and what's going on. But what you can see there is that there's a tunnel dug into the mound in 1968, and lots of other craters and depressions which they've now filled. But other signs that there's been lots of other digs within this sort of mound to try and find a burial. There was this idea that there was a burial chamber in the middle, quoting the likes of, say, some of the sites in ancient Egypt. So there's believed to have been a burial chamber in the middle, but that's never ever been found. Again, what I'm doing is I'm still sort of going into the overview, and some of this will be sort of recapping as well. So in 1849, another tunnel was dug horizontally from the edge into the center. And what then happened is that possibly along where that red line is, which was followed later on by Atkinson in 1968. In 1867, the Wiltshire Archaeological and Naturalistic Society excavated into this mound again. So that mound itself is, and also what was being found as well within the landscape is the faint traces of a Roman road. Right now, this is really interesting because up until like the 1860s, people thought this mound was Roman, right? As everybody thought everything was Roman. It was a big Roman burial chamber. That's what they thought it was. However, when they found the remains of some kind of Roman era roadway, trackway, leading towards the mound, they thought, right, obviously the road goes under the mound, doesn't it? However, they found out that the road went around the mound. And what does that tell you? That the mound was there before the road. Yeah, the mound was there before the road. Because if the road was there before the road would have gone directly in a straight line. That's not the case. So it basically avoided the hill, went around the hill, and this was proof that the hill was there before the road. But the hill provided an alignment, where they aligned the road onto. So what I want us to do is some absolutely fascinating stuff, but I'll mention that another famous archaeologist investigated the hill after the First World War, a chap by the name of Flinders Petrie, a very famous archaeologist. And what we're going to say is that in 1968 to 1970, Professor Richard J. Atkinson worked on the mound, and that's what we're going to come on to after the break. Right, so we're going to take a little bit of a break for a moment. Well, actually, I need to go and get a gas bottle, so I'm going to do that. However, not yet. So we're going to see if there are any questions. Henri.
Hello.
Bonjour, mon petit fleur.
I've sent you some emails.
Sent you some. Well, you want me to look at them now?
No, in your leisure.
I don't have any leisure time.
This is his leisure time.
It's backing up Anne's theory of the Egyptians.
Yeah.
All right, we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do all this, right? So we're going to do this in a moment, Henry, because you've gone out your way to get this and the DNA and stuff. So right, Henry, if that's that from you now, what I'm going to do, Anne, anything you would like to say at this moment?
Well, I just think it's where we are now is we're looking at, just civilizations and man, existing far longer time ago than was actually. I mean, we knew man was like a million years BC, was it? Is that when man?
Yeah, that'll do. That's a nice date. Yeah, go on.
First, and we're talking about Britain. Probably we probably only know about after our ice age. Our second ice age. Well, first and then second ice age. And I just think these are clues, this hill at Tara, very similar to Silbury Hill. I think it's going to turn out to be of some, not mythological significance, but sacred, a sacred site. I think it is.
No, that's fine. That's a good thing to say. Goff, anything you'd like to say?
I was wondering about the Duke of Northumberland. Was he an antiquarian? Because it must have cost a job to go digging tunnels and getting all the Cornish miners. And
he was a bloody butcher. He was a bloody butcher, but he wasn't a good military commander either. But he obviously used his wealth to do this. and a little bit of detail of that after the break. So we'll leave that there for now.
Okay.
And what I do after the break sort of answers that question.
Okay.
Richard, Dickie, anything you'd like to say? You know, my granddad, my dad used to say, Dickie Dark comes from Penarth.
Dickie Richardson used to live in the next street to me when I was a child.
Who the hell's Dickie Richardson?
Dickie Richardson, have you heard of him?
No.
Boxer.
Oh,
Boxer.
from Newport.
Yeah.
The Newport bantamweight boxer.
Yeah. I don't know if he was bantamweight. I don't know what. I thought he was heavyweight. But what's bantamweight? That's light.
Yeah, it is.
He wasn't light. No. No.
Oh, right. Okay.
I went out with his brother, Trevor.
So what was the nookie like? Was it any good?
Oh.
Was he a bit rough?
Oh no,
Right.
I didn't really go out with him. I just, you know, it was just one of those.
Well, once is never enough, Anne. You should know that. Right. We've asked Goff, haven't we, and Henry? Right. Okay. Yes. Have we? Right. Okay. The Irish-Egyptian connection. Here we go in an Irish accent. One of the more controversial stories when it comes to the origins of the Irish people is a connection to ancient Egypt. Although there are many Irish legends connected to the Egyptian royalty, these have been impossible to prove. I got to crack on. Scotta, mother of Scotland and daughter of the pharaoh. No, that's something else. One of the most intriguing examples of these proposals was the first of the skeleton of a 15-year-old boy at the Mound of the Hostages near Tara by Dr. Sean O'Riordan of Trinity College. Carbon dating showed that the remains were roughly 3,800 years old and 4 hours. A necklace found with the skeleton was made of faience beads and matched similar Egyptian manufacture and design. So yes, so that's rather interesting that that's that. So a little bit of meat on the faience beads. Obviously, that they're clay beads, right? Highly decorated clay beads, right?
Blue.
Yeah, blue. Right, and finally, groundbreaking DNA findings. Scientists from the Trinity College Dublin and Queen's University Belfast published new findings in the journal, The Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. What they found was that the ancient Irish were not only related to the people of Southern Europe, but that there was a Middle Eastern connection too. So there you go.
Well,
I thought I'd put that in there. You know.
You didn't really get to the root of it, but that was the start. Those excavations that were done recently, and finding the monkey head.
Hang on, don't blame me. Blame the French guy.
And oh God.
Yeah, exactly. Right, Anne, keep it till after the break. We'll have a little break now.
All right.
We won't be long. I better. What?
Oh, you want us to stop the video?
No, we're having a little break.
Yeah, all right. Go on.
Talk amongst yourself. Goff wants to hear all about your what's in your wardrobe, what dresses and stuff you wear. Richard wants to know more about going over to stay in Henry's holiday home in Italy. So have a chat about them.
Henry's got a holiday home in Italy.
Yes, he has. Yeah, it's in a Biarritz.
It's a pity it's not in San Sebastian.
The thing is, right, Henri, right, used to be the dean of Trinity College Upper Boat, right? And he made a lot of money.
Can we change it?
Anyway, I wish him all the best. I think it's a great idea to have a holiday home in Italy.
Well,
Or
Richard's,
anywhere.
Richard's
I'm
already
thinking of
signed up to
getting one
go.
in San Sebastian.
Well, Richard's already signed up to go to the holiday home. Right. Okay, then. We'll have a quick break. I'll see you in a minute.
Where is it, Henry? We shouldn't really be saying this online. Have you gone? Oh, he's gone. Yeah, £50,000.
What?
£50,000. You could get like a cell on the beach
Where?
in San Sebastian. It's very expensive. It's very expensive.
What do I want a bloody cell on a beach for?
Well, you know, just a 1-bedroom, you know, like a studio flat.
Oh, right.
You couldn't really live there, you know.
Anne, why did you talk to Goff? He wants to talk to
They've
you.
gone. They've had enough. They're going for a break.
No, Goff is there.
No, he's gone. I'm going as well. Come on now. Have you gone off over the field yet?
How can I go on the field? I'm going now. I gotta put some trousers on.
Toilet.
What?
Toilet.
You're going to the toilet?
Yeah.
I don't want to know that. Yeah. Dry boots.
Oh, I can't really say anything about this article. I think you need to read it. Don't you ever go on Bridgend Archaeology? Oh.
What are you on about?
Oh God. Oh no, I was going to write something and I'm not going to now because it's just too complicated.
Oh,
I actually put on my little post
What?
on my post in Bridgend Archaeology Cymru, I put leave the myth. When it comes to mythology, you have to trust the experts because most people don't know anything about the mythology of Egypt or Ireland, and to connect them would be impossible. But somebody has connected them, and you know, and it also makes the civilization in Ireland far, far older than we imagined. That's all. You know, people come here in long boats, in big boats, yeah. So,
Anne, can I ask you something? Who the hell are you talking to?
myself, I'm talking to myself because no one's listening. I was trying to write something down, but no, actually,
Richard,
what happened
no,
this
Richard
week?
listening. Richard listening. He is listening, honestly.
This week, I was asked by one of my members on Bridgend Archaeology Cymru, where's all the Welsh archaeology? Why do I keep posting Irish stuff? And I had to say that I couldn't, you know, all the sources, they don't seem to be, they've all dried up, you know, and I started looking then for Welsh archaeology, and I just came up with that Acilio, you know.
Oh, Aquilio, yeah.
Aquilio database of the Welsh Archaeology Trust. I thought I'd put that on. But yeah, I am looking for Welsh archaeology. But you know, we don't have the money, we don't have the resources that
Well, no, Richard's got the money. He's got loads of it.
that Ireland does, you know. I mean, not saying they got loads of money, but perhaps they're very insular, so their universities, you know, they've got like 2 big universities or 3, maybe 4, and you know, they do archaeology, so they can do their land research and everything. It's all very compact. It's no different to Wales, really, but I don't think Wales has ever really, you know, had the interest or the, oh, I don't know. They're a lot younger. The people in Ireland are a lot younger.
What are you trying to say about Gough? He's not old.
I don't know.
It's difficult to know what to say, Anne.
Well, you're doing Welsh archaeology, aren't you? But now here we are doing Silbury Hill. Now, where's our Silbury Hill in Wales? I mean, there's a guy up in Caerphilly thinks it's up there.
What's up, Marlon?
Have you ever been on Llewellyn Bren's site?
No, he's a strange man, he is.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the kettle to boil and we'll get started again.
Are you all gassed up?
Yeah, I've all gassed up. Actually, I found out I banged the existing gas thing with a hammer, and it's still gas in it.
Oh,
You're not supposed to bang a gas thing
No.
with a hammer.
remember we used
Not
to, you
recommended.
used to live, remember you used to live on the main road and the gasometer was behind you.
Oh, that was really weird, the gasometer.
It was weird. Sometimes it would be flat and then sometimes it would be. So they must have still been making gas.
Well, you know, you don't make gas from a gasometer, do you?
Oh, you store it.
Yeah, you do. You store it, yeah.
Well, how did they make colour gas? Is that out of coal? Does anyone know what colour gas is made out of?
Yes,
Yes, made of gas.
ordinary gas. It's gas
Oh,
wherever.
it's a byproduct, is it? Some sort of.
Yeah. Liquefied. It's pressurized and liquefied.
Oh,
It's a bit like Samantha Fox's chest.
well,
That's liquid.
I don't like to mention the word, but over in Northern Ireland, they don't have any gas. They only have colour gas and electric and oil.
And I'm going to say something now. Don't take this the wrong way, right? I know this this bloke who's had a sex op into a woman, right? And I said to this individual the other day, I said, because actually, right, they've got a really nice chest, right? So I said to this bloke, you know, you've got really nice breasts. And apparently somebody else has told me that this guy who's had a sex op has got the nicest breasts that he has ever seen. Apparently, men who have sex ops, right, they got a better looking breasts than women who have got genuine breasts.
Yeah, probably. They're probably more toned.
But yeah, it was really good. There were no hairs on it or anything. It was brilliant. Right, I gotta grab my cup of tea now. And we're going to do part two.
Anyone listening to us? We've got nobody joining us. I
What?
bet they were all frightened off last week.
Why were they frightened off last week? Right, more about Silbury Hill, right? Yeah, we got 3 people watching online. When you started talking, and we lost them all.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
God. I have
Oh,
got
don't worry, Anne. Don't worry, Anne. You
Horrible.
can't always get it right.
No.
Yeah, and don't worry. It's all for the good of the country and the Third Reich. Right. Okay. You know, somebody said that that Nicola Sturgeon is the new Führer of Scotland.
The new what?
The new Führer. In Scotland, they actually
Oh.
call it. They actually call it Führer Sturgeon. Anyway, now one of the things that I wanted to do today to try and get Silbury Hill into context is that we've mentioned we mentioned the Duke of Marlborough, and Gough had that question which we've really got to answer, which I will be answering in a very, very short period of time. Now, as things go, I wanted to try and put things into a little perspective. This is like pseudo-archaeological excavation where the archaeological work has been undertaken and they're reinterpreting what we know in the tunnels and the landscape of Silbury Hill. And it restarts off in 2000, in May the 29th, 2000. And that itself is, as we mentioned earlier on, that is the excavations by Professor Atkinson. That is basically the tunnel that was dug. And to give you an idea of the context of the tunnel, what we need to do is, again, that there is 1968. That's actually the tunnel that was opened up in the mound, right? And now it's all been filled. If we go to this here, that is the path of the tunnel. Now we know that the other tunnel that was excavated in the 1800s, Atkinson sort of followed that path, and he sort of got an idea of what the landscape was about. When you think about it, it would have been a flat landscape. There you go, old land surface. So I'm just gonna. So what happens if we're darting back and forth to images? So I want to keep that one up there, right? And what I want to do is go back on that one, right, and show you something. I show you what happened. And what happened was that bits of the hill started to creep. There was soil creep on the hill, right? So they had to do something about that. In other words, with all the holes that have been dug into the mound, it's basically destroying it. So they've had to backfill the holes, the trenches, the archaeological excavations that have been dug into the mound. That's basically what they're doing. And what happened? This is what happened on May the 29th, 2000. The center of the mound started to collapse. The shaft that had been dug by the Duke of Marlborough in 1776 basically reopened, right? And also a dog disappeared as well. A dog fell into the tunnel and was never found again. Shut up, Anne, it's not that boring. Right. So the large hole that opened up, they put a fence around it, and it sort of, they dismissed it as like, they thought, oh, right, it's just a hole opened up. It's not really a big deal. But between 2000 and 2002, lots of other holes started to open up in the mound, and you're not allowed to walk on the mound because it's dangerous, right? Because of all these holes. So the thing is with English heritage is the following. It's an English heritage site. And what they wanted to do was start to understand the damage that archaeologists have done to the mound. And what they wanted to do, they wanted to, in 2007, they come up with a final opportunity for archaeologists to get into the mound, and that was it. They were going to backfill it. They were going to pump in chalk into the mound. And this is to give you an idea of the amount of holes in the mound, right? They pumped into the mound liquefied native chalk. They pumped into the mound £500,000 When you say pounds, that's not pounds in money, pounds as in weight. £500,000 of crushed liquefied natural native chalk into the mound. So this was actually to restore it. It tried to restore it to its former glory. To give it its, and the thing is, we don't know how many excavations there have been with the mound. We really don't know. We don't know of the true extent that work has actually been undertaken into the mound. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to look again at that fascinating image, which we'll come up to now. Hang on. Let's just scroll down that one there. Right. Follow the line. There you go. So you look at the one in the middle on the left. the 1776 shaft. So the treasure hunting Duke of Northumberland, he had a lot of money. He was a soldier, sometimes successful, other times not successful. He wasn't good at fighting the French, put it that way. He was good at, yeah, anyway. So, so the Duke of Northumberland employed miners to dig a hole down from the top of the monument. And these miners were actually miners from Ireland. So it was a vertical trench, a vertical shaft, 40 meters deep. And he was disappointed that nothing was found in the shaft at all. Nothing was discovered at that stage, right? Using the word that stage, because things were missed in the reports, and so what we did, hang on a minute, what we did is what was found was that the guy who was working with him, Edward Drax, Duke of Marlborough, said nothing was found, right? But in 2010, right, 2010, something was interesting was found. So I needed to do this. Duke of Marlborough was funding the excavations. He had miners. He had Cornish miners digging the shaft. And in February 2010, letters written by Edward Drax concerning the 1776 excavation. Now, Edward Drax was a colonel who had fought alongside the Duke of Marlborough. Concerning the 1776 excavation, were found in the British Library, and he described that something was found. And this is a very strange thing indeed. So nobody knew about this until the letters were found in 2010. What had been found had been lost until these letters were found. And what was found was a 12-meter long cavity, which was 6 inches wide. And it actually, within that cavity, were the fragile remains of decayed wood in the mound itself. And it's thought that this itself was some kind of totem pole, some kind of pole that was associated with the mound. And that was quite significant because that information hadn't been discussed, and nobody knew about that until the letters were found in 2010. So a piece of timber, a totem pole associated with this mound. And we don't know anything more than that because they didn't have the scientists, they didn't have the proper investigation then as we do now. So back to what we were thinking of is that the hole that's opened up is the hole that was the one that was excavated originally by the Duke of Marlborough. So in 1849, the Archaeological Institute from London engaged an archaeologist known as Dean Merriweather to dig a shaft from the side. So that's the grey shaft from the tunnel there, but it's also the same route that was followed by the like of Atkinson in 1968. He actually used Cornish miners as well to dig into it. But nothing was found in regards to a burial in the center of the mound. Now, this is where things get really, really interesting. Because in 1968, there was somebody who we've never, ever heard of. There was a young and enthusiastic controller of the BBC in BBC Two in 1967, 1968, and so on. And he wanted an excavation to be undertaken into the mound. And he approached Professor Richard Atkinson, one of the foremost prehistorians of the day. And what what this enthusiastic controller of the BBC wanted to do was to film it daily, more or less a live film of the archaeological excavations. I'm not going to mention the guy's name who was actually controller of the BBC, because you won't know what his name, who he is, David Attenborough. Yeah, the David Attenborough actually engaged an archaeologist to actually dig into the mound. And everyone forgets that now he's Sir David Attenborough was actually controller of it BBC Two back then. So basically, Atkinson made various different reports about the excavation into Silbury Mound. He didn't actually publish all his results, which was a bit odd. But they took radiocarbon dates from the mound along the length of the excavation. And the radiocarbon dates, which were quite crude back then, but the radiocarbon dates put the mound back at least to about 4,500 years ago. So these are the first proper radiocarbon dates taken within the mound itself. So Professor Atkinson believed that the excavation should be left open, so people could actually go down there. Now, the other thing as well is, so David Attenborough, as he is now, back then said, right, we've got enough footage. We don't need to do any more excavation. So they actually stopped the work. So no more work, and that was basically the last proper and the last excavation that will probably ever take place in over the next 50, 60, 100 years or whatever, because we've probably got enough information now. Something that wasn't really reported upon back in the day was an antler tool, and an antler tool was actually found in the excavations of Atkinson's. And he believed that the trenches should be left open, so that future generations could actually look into the cave and sort of, not the cave, the tunnel, to sort of disprove or prove his results. But unfortunately, they were left open, and now they've been filled. So in 2007, and basically, one of you mentioned last week, I think it's one of you guys, you mentioned about a video online, right? So and what we're going to do, we're going to go onto the YouTube a minute, and we're going to actually go onto here. Hang on a minute, where is it? BBC footage. And if you type in Silbury Hill, so you got Silbury Hill excavations 1968, you come up with a really obscure video, right? And it's this one. Can you hear the sound?
No.
And the reason why I was showing this was actually what was happening in 2007. They were opening the door into the mound, and what they were going to do is sort of backfill it, right? And what's going on there? They've got people from English heritage, and they've got Druids, sort of opening this, right? And they're like doing some kind of ceremony there, right? And the ceremony itself is sort of out of respect for opening this, and that's what they did. So they opened it, and what Skanska were doing, they were then going to backfill it with basically the chalk and so on, and that's basically the door open.
There's a man
It
with
was
a
too
big
dangerous
beard.
for them to go in. But that's basically, so the reason why I was showing you that was to give you an idea of the scale of the mound. Because if you come back out the video, hang on a minute. If this goes back out, hang on, hopefully it does. Can you see the scaffolding there is dwarfed by the hill? You know, it's
Oh,
dwarfed,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's a really big hill.
Yeah.
Right. So I wanted to actually show you this. And basically, if we go back again, there you go. Again, that gives you an idea of scale. So what we're going to do, we're going to get back to my notes in the image. So if we go back to where we were. And there we are again. So what one of the things that we do know about this is that, as you can see, if I could just do a brief interpretation, what Atkinson told us in 1968 was that there was a central area, and that was built up first over like a few decades, and then there was another few other mounds, and that was built up where the grey bit is there, and there was another mound placed on the outside of that, you know, in about 3 major phases, but it was built over that period of time, and it was quite likely that it may have actually been sort of laid as a bit like a layer cake. And what there is as well, as he was excavating, he actually found these deep ditches. These ditches were about 6 meters in depth. And these ditches themselves obviously indicate different stages of build. So the mound was built, it subsided, then the more mound was built and it subsided, more mound was built and it subsided, and it kept on going like that until it eventually become a little bit more stable. So this is going to sound so dull, right? But I'm going to say it. The only significant discovery was of an antler fragment. That was a tool that would have been used. The mound itself was basically, lost of archaeological evidence. There was just, there was not a lot found associated with it.
No.
And this is the thing, you see, and the whole point of this is a discussion that we actually had on Tuesday. Right. And the discussion on Tuesday was, towards the end, we sort of started to think that the mound was actually constructed as something that people felt connected to. You don't really need an answer for that.
No.
So say, for example, when you go to the beach and build a sandcastle, why do you do it? You just do it because you do it, right? Not everything in history needs to have a reason. Not everything in history needs to have a purpose. Well, okay, I'll give you a good example of this, right? What was the purpose of the First World War? Millions of people died. Can anybody justify the reason why the First World War happened, right? Was there any point to it? And then, if you want to use that as a metaphor, a lot of wasted lives, right? People sacrifice for no reason at all, right? And the metaphor is, how dare I use that, but the metaphor is if we can't really find a decent reason for that, right, and justify it, can we do the same for a mound that was constructed thousands of years ago? The answer is no. Because what right do we have to justify something that we don't really understand, right? And there doesn't need to be any justification. So I want to tell you something that is massive, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at a few dates. I'm not going to do all this here in front of me because I don't need to, right? But we will come to this little bit. But I want to tell you something that's more fascinating than anything, right? And what the point is, okay, let's just, well, there's loads of images about Silbury Hill, right? Let's just find another enigmatic one. Let's just, that one there. Leave that in the background, right? Leave that there, all right? So, with all that we know, with all the work that's been done, with all the lack of archaeological evidence, seeing layers upon layers and chalk upon chalk, this next thing is very fascinating, right? Towards the center of that mound, in 1968, they found something that was more important than a burial, more important than finding artifacts. The archaeologists marveled at their predecessors. In 1968, they found the excellent state of preservation of the organic materials that made up the original mound. Owing to the pressure of the overlying mound, the vegetable matter, quote unquote, was perfectly preserved and the grass was still green. Again, the vegetable matter was perfectly preserved and the grass was still green. And that grass was over 2,005, start again, that was very wrong, 4,500 years old, and it was still green. Joe, this sounds a bit nuts, right? You know what I'd like to have done with some of that grass is to sort of replant it to see if it was still alive. My God, wouldn't that be massively interesting? But anyway, we'll never know, folks. The extremely high level of preservation in the center is unique. And archaeologists were able to confirm the original observation, but the turfs were not just cut from the footprint of the monument, but would have been cut from a wide area, including chalk grassland. I just wanted to make a point in a second, but I just wanted to make this statement. When you look at St. Bede's man from Cumbria, you know, remember that one for a guy from the 1350s, 1360s. He's like a Teutonic knight. He was brought back, and he was perfectly preserved, and there was still blood in his veins and all the rest of it. We thought that was amazing, right? That is amazing still, right? But actually finding grass that's still green is massive for me anyway. That's the archaeology. That's the archaeological evidence. When will a blade of grass ever be more interesting than that? However, the idea of bringing turfs of grass to create a mound brings me that idea of that story, that true story. They go up a mountain and come down. They go up a hill and come down a mountain. Remember that one? They even made a film out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what that reminds me of. Right. What we're gonna do? We're gonna put some chalk there, and we're gonna take a sod of earth. Right. Now, I'm gonna say something that was remarked last week. Right. And I said this to you, and I don't think we had enough time last week. I'm flowing a little bit now, so we might finish at 10 to tonight. We're not going to finish at 1:45, that's for sure. The idea of taking a sod of earth is a great spiritual journey. It's a spiritual journey that we've seen in Christianity. When we've looked at Brixworth Church, in Northamptonshire, I think that's the county, Brixworth Church. They brought material from miles around for the construction of the church, and that's been proven. They brought a cartload of material from the Roman site down the road to build this Saxon church at Brixworth. They brought a little bit from over there. They brought a little bit. It was like a Minster church. You gave a donation to the Minster church of material, and then that was used to build Brixworth. That's no different from this build. Let's call this a building. It's no different from this building, right? And the other reason why we might not find evidence in it, in the form of artifacts, bits of gold, and all the rest of it, and burials, right? Is that, you know, do our ancestors, when they're playing around, do they need to have objects to take with them in the afterlife? No, because they're your ancestors. They can do whatever they like in the mound. They can live in the mound, right? That's one of my theories anyway. I've got here, before we finish today, some ideas about what the mound might mean. And we'll be doing Marlborough Mound next week, actually. But we didn't have any time to do that this week. We're going to do some ideas about this, and I'm going to change the image again, right? Because I know Goff likes his image. But that puts the mound within the landscape, doesn't it? Does it not? It sort of puts it within the landscape. We like that one.
Mm.
So let's see what else we can sort of eke out of this, right? So they have undertaken seismic surveys of the mound to get an idea what's going on. We know from the surrounding landscape, as we mentioned last week, and anyone who's watching this on YouTube, because we've had like 6 people there, don't forget to like and subscribe, put some comments in there. When they've looked at the surrounding landscape, what they found is that obviously there was a ditch around this mound that is obviously filled in greatly now because of subsidence. And you can see that on the image there. You can see a little bit of trickle of water around it. They've actually found evidence, we've mentioned this, of a village near the foothill of Silbury Hill. That was found in 2007. And guess what? Streets and houses laid out. The Roman era, they were connected to this site. What's going on? What is going on here? But yeah, this is something really, really massive, something really, really connected with the mound. People feel that they, over time, they want to be associated with the mound. And that is a really, really good point, that the mound is connected within the landscape. I like the little bit about this sort of road leading to it, this sort of trackway roadway in the Roman era, and it went around it. That sort of gave you an idea of the dating. So there's that little bit of, there's that little set of notes there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut that one, right? And we've got some wonderful theories about this mound, but before I do that, I want to, you know, I just want to scroll to make sure I've got everything. So obviously we've now filled in the mound to make it safe, and it means that the mound will last for a very long period of time. It's a mound that was built over a period of time as well, which is a very, very important point. And what they have done, whilst this is actually the point before last that I want to make is here. I'm glad I found it. So I'm just gonna read this out now, right? So before they backfilled the mound in 2007, they had quite literally recorded as much as they possibly could, and they made a virtual reality reconstruction of the internal workings of all the passageways and stuff that had been dug by various antiquaries and archaeologists. Over 400 samples have been taken, including a series of cores from the very center of the original mound. So we know of the surface that the mound is built upon, with many of them earmarked to be frozen for study by future generations and their more advanced technology. So in other words, they've taken these cores and they've frozen them. We're not going to have another opportunity to go into the mound. And why do we need to, when we've got these cores that we can look at in future generations? You know, I think we're going so far with archaeology. We could go even further. So what I'd like to do now is some ideas about the mound. Let's change the image again, and that will be a nice end to today. And we've really given it a very good go, right? So let's just change the image, and let's read this out. So let's just change that image again. Let's just. We used this one here on the other day. It looks like a bloody mountain, doesn't it? But with this in the background foreshadowing us, just imagine after this would been completed. It's like an artist, isn't it? Let's just do a little bit of a metaphor. Sorry. It's like an artist. An artist, most artists don't feel that they've ever completed anything. They're always adding to their work. Look at Van Gogh. He was never happy with anything he ever painted. He kept on adding to it. That indicates a bit of a terrace there. And there would have been a rounded domed top. But some of these things that we're going to read now challenge and add to everything that we've said. Many questions remain to be explored. Foremost among them is why is it? What's going on? What is it? Why? What was the purpose of Silbury Hill? Was there one purpose at the beginning, halfway through, and it changed? What did it represent? Very interesting wording there. What did it represent? Rather than why, what did it represent? What function did it perform? I answer that by saying, why did it need a function? What did it represent? Back to that. What was its meaning to the people who went to such great efforts to build it? Folklore places it as the burial mound of the King's Sill. And do you know what? Silbury, King's Sill, that's where the mound, the burial place of Sill, that's what, or Bury Hill. So, and the other thing somebody said, why are some of these things called mounds and why are some called hills? Right, we won't go there. Other theories attached to it, is it something to do with a goddess? Is it something to do with a sundial? You had a huge post on the top to sort of cast shadows on the landscape. Is it something to do with tracking seasons? Well, it's a bit of a thing than the Aberdeen site, isn't it? The Mesolithic site that we looked at, which we talk about that being a calendar. It is certainly tied. It is certainly tied to the other monuments nearby through sight lines. Interesting. It's part of a sacred landscape, which I'm not going to deny. There's a water spring nearby, and it's a water spring I know well because I got engaged to somebody there. So there's a spring there. So this woman that I just bumped into, I just got engaged to a goth. I know, you know the type of thing, it happens. Right. Some people actually think that it was actually a human response to replicating a hill. Because in the Vale of Pewsey, which isn't too far away, if anyone knows Pewsey, there's a couple of Pewsey horses.
Yes.
Yes, you do know. Yeah. And there's a hill there called the Picked Hill. And that's a bit like this. And they think, right, it was a symbolic gesture to emulate nature. But isn't that commonplace that we do emulate nature? Yeah, I'm going to leave that issue there. So it's close proximities to rivers and springs. Maybe it's a microcosm of the wider landscape, which has mountains and springs and all the rest of it. So these are important features in the landscape, sacred, important to earlier inhabitants. I don't like using the word sacred. I like to use the word connected, because when you use the word sacred, you think about Christianity and paganism and Islam, and I like to say connection. It's a little bit easier. What is this identity? The concentration of different local materials, clay, gravel, that would have needed to have been brought in. chalk, turfs brought in from other areas, topsoil, and even small sarsen boulders, suggests that the builders were bringing their landscape into the construction for maybe their ancestors to become a microcosm of what's around them. A world in one place, and even timber. Finally, there are plans to venture beyond previous discussions of Silbury. In that today we've been very much obsessed, not so much last week, however, but we've been very much obsessed with prehistory. When Atkinson was initially looking at the mound, we actually came across late Saxon and also Norman period pottery on top of the mound. Was the top of the mound iconic in those other periods in time? Of course it would have been. Was there a military structure that possessed the landscape in the late Saxon and Norman period? The thing is, this mound has always got connections. It's connected to us now. That's the image that we're looking at. There will be work done on locating the sources of various materials. And would it be interesting to think that the gravels could have actually, the gravels that were used in this mound, they could have come from 10, 20, 30 miles away. That's significant. That's important. It's gravel, but it's important. And earlier on, I said about it being built by a small group of people. Listen this out now. Additionally, no evidence of the large workforce that would have been needed to construct Silbury Hill has yet been found. 500 is a lot. 20 to 30 isn't, accommodated in a small village that doesn't need to be found. Is it, however, constructed by various different communities over a long period of time? That could fit in well. Sits and starts with building the mound. It's our turn to build the mound, isn't it? Interesting that. It is interesting to consider a segregated population, with lumberjacks cutting the forest of trees needed to construct. What's going on here? What's going on at places like Avebury and Stonehenge and West Kennet Lomborough? Certainly better dating will start reducing the possibilities, especially as more information trickles out of the Durrington Walls excavation. And finally, eureka moments tend to happen when they have closed the door on the mound. More to learn. So it is possible that stunning results could be just around the corner, or those frozen samples, maybe we'll know the answer in 100 years' time. We won't need to dig into the mound because the evidence will always be with us. And the evidence will always be with us because there is the mound for us to see today from a little car park along the A4. I think it's the A4 anyway. On that note, that was a nice little end. That's a nice end to end the lecture today. Next week, Marlborough Mound and the Skipton Mound as well, which is probably one you've never heard of. So keep that information coming in. Let's see if there are any questions this week. And what we're going to do, we're going to have questions from our French friend Henri. Go on, Henri. Ask us if you've got any questions, Henri.
Oddly enough, no, I don't. I think that actually left an intriguing door open on what may come through later in the years to come.
Yeah, a door. There's a dichotomy in, isn't there, of what you just said? A door opening on a door that's closed, but we've got the evidence out of the door and frozen it. That's a really good one, right? And one thing I got to mention, I don't know, Henry, who is your favorite Doctor Who?
David Tennant.
Oh, right. I thought you might say Pertwee, right?
Nah.
Nah.
When
David
John
Tennant.
when John Pertwee was Doctor Who, right? they had a spoof of the excavations at Atkinson, right? And I think the episode was something like Devil's End or something like that. There was an archaeologist and they were filming, and Doctor Who went into to look at the shenanigans, and that was about a mound somewhere on the northeast coast somewhere. And it was like very topical that people had watched this on TV, and now it was part of a Doctor Who episode a few years later. So no question from you, Henri.
No, thank you.
Henri, parlez-vous français?
Just to tell you, Brazil are leading.
Oh, by how much?
2-0.
Oh, that's
No.
disappointing.
Who's Brazil and who?
Doctor Who.
Serbia.
Oh,
Serbia. Right. Let's do the boys first, right? Goff, anything you'd like to say, darling?
Oh, no questions. Very, very good. I agree with Henry. It's very intriguing. Yeah.
Good,
But
good.
one thing, is it? Can we just clear a couple of things up? Is it the Duke of Northumberland or the Duke of Marlborough?
oh yeah.
That's
And
Fox.
when?
Have I hang on a minute. What I'd like to do is right, okay. I'm just gonna type in. I haven't used both, have I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck. No, I do apologize.
Or is it Fred from the fish shop?
I do apologize if I've used both, right? Hang on a minute. I've got to Duke of Northumberland, right? It wasn't the Duke of Marlborough.
All right. And was it, not that it really matters, but was
It
it
does matter.
Irish miners or Cornish miners?
I think
They were Cornish.
You
Right.
said they were Irish in the first instance.
Did I?
That doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. Just like to get the
Like,
fact.
I lose in the bloody pot, yeah. They were always Cornish miners.
Oh,
No, you called them
right,
Irish.
yeah, you did say Irish.
You did a
Oh,
top.
I must be having a bloody bad day. I'm
No, it was
glad
the
you're
Duke of
questioning this.
Northumberland. Duke of Northumberland had Irish miners.
You went also Winston Churchill and
Yeah.
so
I was deliberate. I deliberately chucked that in there. Sorry.
no, that's fine. He was very good, very interested. Great.
Sorry for the grey areas today. I'm glad you questioned them.
Now, senior moment you had.
2 senior moments.
Yeah.
All right. Talking about senior moments, Richard.
No, I haven't got it really. It's just a strange sort of, strange site. Why was it built? I haven't got a clue.
No, that's true.
Well,
That's true.
I'm going to say something.
Oh,
I haven't finished with Richard. Right. All right. That's the Richard's done. Go on.
He said,
Yeah.
why was it built? What was it? And I was just going to say, well, I feel satisfied that they've done enough excavating to find that there's nothing in it. But, I'm going for just a landscape, an image in a landscape. And like Tara, Tara Hill, where they found the Barbary ape in Ireland.
Turner Hill in the good old Cornwall.
It was the mythical centre of Ireland. So it was a mythical centre. So it's not the centre of Ireland, but it's the mythical centre. So Silbury Hill could be to do with their mythology. Like, or the moon. Thoth was the Egyptian god of the moon.
You're into this bloody froth, aren't you?
So I'm just thinking, more to do with, yeah, probably the planets or just nothing. Just it is what it is.
Oh,
It's like-
now you've spoilt it. You've said it is what it is. I hate that.
No, it reminds me a bit of, because you've found there's nothing in it, you know, we think there's nothing in it. It reminds me of the, you know, this Kirkus, the
Yes,
the
the
sort
Kirkus
of
monument. Yes.
land of the forefathers, the land of our ancestors. You know, it's like, really, that's mythological in a way. It's like totally invisible. It's invisible, but it's very important.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Of course it's important. It's a major monument. Exactly.
What about aliens?
Oh, bugger off. What I was going to, Von Daniken said there was a sort of a landing spot on the top. But what I was going to say is I was right about the Duke of Northumberland. He was a general, and so obviously the Duke of Marlborough and the Duke of Northumberland are around at the same time. But Duke of Northumberland is a general, and he did serve. So
You know, you mentioned his sidekick Drax. Now that name rings a bell somewhere, and I
well,
can't.
the Duke of Northumberland was involved in the battles of Lexington and Concord, right? But he resigned his command. So obviously he was here in 1776. So that's the link. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to go with Colonel. Anyone remember what his first name was? Henry?
Henry?
No, it's not. It's not. No. No. What was his first name? Come on.
Northumberland?
No, Drax.
Drax.
It's
Haven't
both
got
of
a clue.
Pay
What,
attention.
did anyone write his bloody? Did anyone actually write his first name down?
No.
Did you?
No, I bloody didn't. All I had was Drax. Hang on a minute. I got to get his first name right. Okay. Richard Drax. No, that's somebody else. Right, Colonel Drax. Right, hang on a minute. We're gonna Edward Drax. Right, Colonel Edward Drax. Here we go. We're gonna do it. You've been watching too much Outlander. You have.
Ralph Percy.
Shut up.
Hugh Percy.
Right, Edward Drax. Right. Right, Colonel Edward Drax.
Oh, drat it. I thought you want Henry Percy. Oh, there is a Duke of Northumberland now.
Right, hang on a minute, folks. Hang on a minute, folks. Hang on. Yeah, right, Colonel Drax. Oh, yeah, he looks like he was some kind of MP.
All right, but the name rings a bell. I don't know why it does. Are there Drax caves somewhere? I don't know. Something ringing a bell. I don't know what.
I got some. I do have some. Right. Okay. Edward Drax. Right. Okay. It's not letting me get access, but there is something on here. I can't get to the Parliament website for some reason, but he is somebody somewhere in history. Have a look at that for next week.
Yes, all right. I will do. Yeah.
Look. Right. Okay. Any other questions before we go?
No, thank you.
No, I was just going to say we've decided we've decided we're going to go to Marlborough for a holiday.
Yeah, that's good.
For a few
Well
days.
done, Anne. Goff will go. Right. Marlborough's a nice place. Okay, right. Henry, is there anything else you want to say today?
We're off to Estonia. Is that all right?
Yeah, you can. Make sure you say hello to the president of Russia for me. Thanks for that, Henry. Nothing else from you, Henry?
No, that's great. Have a good week.
What about you? What was that, Henry?
Have a good week.
I will. Anything else from you, Goff?
No, that's fine. Great. Thank you.
We'll look at Edward Drax. I'm going to look him up. Richard, anything from you this week?
No, I'm okay.
Hang on a minute. I got him. Edward Drax. Right. Okay. Covers. Right. I've got something about him. Oh, there's some shenanigans involving the Prince of Wales with Edward Drax.
Aha!
Ooh,
Uh,
when?
yeah. Yes, there's something involving the Prince of Wales and Edward Drax.
Oh, Drake. They keep saying Drake.
Drax, you silly woman. Yeah, there's some shenanigans. It doesn't make much sense, but something involving that. Yeah, that's where you got it from. He died in
All right.
91.
Oh God. It's very confusing, all these different
That's
time.
true. Right. Richard, anything else from you?
No, I'm fine. I'm away.
Okay.
Are you
Right.
away?
I'm off.
And anything, Anne, because we gotta wind up. Anything from you, Anne, quick?
No, that was it was just an interesting finish
Okay.
to the Silbury Hill.
Okay.
Uh,
All right then.
Bye.
Okay. What I'm gonna say is I'm gonna say good night to Richard. Good night to Goff. Good night to Henry, and good night to Anne. And thanks for your support tonight. And I'll see you all next week. Other than
Bye.
Estonians.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for your contributions. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you, Henry. See you soon. Enjoy Estonia.
Have a good one. Yeah, we're going to Latvia as well.
Oh, and Moldova. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Enjoy the game. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Anyway, thanks everybody watching today. That was a weird one. I don't know. My grey cells getting them wrong. Sent you some emails in the chat. So we've in the chat sent you some emails. That's good. Nothing else in the chat. I'm looking there. Nothing. So anyway, thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Good night. Thank you very much. I'm off. Bye-bye. Night-night. Keep watching. And don't forget the join button. Thank you. Bye.